Dashboards. All relevant data at a glance. Directly and always up to date.
We'll now show you how you can also evaluate your suppliers efficiently and make well-informed decisions. Welcome to the co-focus topic of dashboards, KPIs and Supplier Cockpit. I'm glad you're here. My name is Lars von Straelen.
Hello from me too. I am Daniel von Sondern.
We selected the 3 modules for our co-focus because they have one thing in common. They use data from a variety of Babtec modules. To convey this knowledge to you, let's take a look at my computer. What we see here is the module overview, which you are already familiar with. And if I go one slide further, you see that 2 of the modules we're looking at to the quality metrics and supplier evaluations are highlighted in orange. Why only 2? Where is the 3rd dashboard, Daniel?
The dashboard is actually not a module at all. Rather, it's a feature that's available immediately upon installing Babtec, regardless of which modules you have purchased. The dashboard is also a module that can directly display information from the other modules we've highlighted here, quality metrics and supplier evaluations. But the dashboard is also a module that can display information from all modules. So from the number of projects in APQP to the number of open requirements to complaints and other information. In other words, all modules can provide information that is displayed on the dashboard.
And these synergies between the modules that we want to show you, that's the topic for our session today. The dashboard as a central element, integrating KPIs, supplier evaluations, and even a brief look beyond the boundaries of the company. That means, how do I communicate a supplier evaluation to the supplier? Enough talk? Let's get started and actually take a look at everything in the Babtec software. You already know this. Then let's switch over to my computer, and here we are on the classic dashboard start screen or welcome screen, whatever you prefer to call it. This is the area you can configure, and it is made available to users right when the software starts.
Here we can see that the dashboard displays a variety of different elements. In the lower section, I have evaluations. I have my active tiles. The large 45 here immediately catches the eye. In the upper section, there are additional key figures that help me see more detailed information.
Now, it may be the case that some dashboards display sensitive information, so you can also manage access rights for each dashboard individually. This means you can specify exactly which users are allowed to see which dashboard so that the information is delivered in a targeted manner. This goes so far that you might assign individual dashboards to specific people, allowing you to create personalized individual dashboards tailored precisely for that person.
So how do we create such a dashboard, or how are changes to dashboards handled? Let's take a quick look and demonstrate how you can make a change to the dashboard.
I've started what's called the dashboard designer. You can see it up here. I select the dashboard that we were just looking at, switch to edit mode, and at first I actually see the same view that the consumer sees. The only difference is that on the right side I have configuration options to modify individual tiles or add new elements.
In this case, I personally feel that the topic of complaints isn't prominent enough. That's why we're going to create an additional tile that puts the focus on complaints and, for example, shows me the number of outstanding complaints with a deadline.
To do this, I've now moved the existing tile with the 45 open tasks together to create a bit of free space here. And I'm using this free space now to go to the right side and click plus to add a new tile. And this new tile that I want to add is a view that I define myself. Now I drag and drop my view in there and make it a bit larger. So I've carefully positioned my current view, and through the available properties, I can now precisely select this particular view by specifically specifying that I want to clearly see my important Due AD reports here within this comprehensive view.
Wow, 32 is quite a high number for the amount of Due AD reports. Can we highlight that a bit more? I mean, I can imagine that once it reaches a certain threshold, the whole thing should be considered critical. Let's say 20 complaints are still in the green-yellow range. From 20 onwards, the complaint rate becomes critical, and maybe that should turn red.
Nothing easier than that. I simply added a new rule and specified that the color red should be used in the tile when the value it contains is greater than or equal to 20. And with that, you can already see it. The setting I made here on the right is immediately reflected in the tile, and now I have the red background color active here.
Okay, one more design tip. Maybe you can place the rectangular 32 next to the other tile, so we have two rectangular tiles side by side.
Drag and drop is the way to go here. I'll take my tile and place it to the right of the large tile. As a result, the two small tiles that were there before are moved to the free area, and the large tile is displayed and presented here.
Okay, that already looks good. Let's try it out right away. And we don't want to try it out on Lars's notebook, who uses the BabtecQ software, but in the web browser. There is a second way to access the dashboard. In addition to the Windows client, I also have the option to simply open a web browser within my company network and launch the QGo interface. And there I can access the dashboard just the same. I've already prepared that here. I have my iPad with me here and I'm using the Safari browser. Of course, that works as well. And I have the BabtecQ Go interface open here. Here we are, my dashboard. I haven't refreshed it yet, because if we press refresh now, we'll immediately see the change that Lars made here. Red 32, that already looks important, but what does the 32 actually mean? I think you forgot the title, and there's also a title bar at the top that's displayed without a proper name. Maybe we can fix that, Lars?
Nothing easier than that. So I'll just quickly hide the title here and then say, wait, save it like this. Go ahead and refresh, see if that's better for you.
Yes, that looks better. 32 overdue, 8 D reports, oh, that's quite a lot. That's a lot. And I don't just want to use the dashboard to look at things. I also want to use it actively, maybe to dive deeper into the topic, especially into the 32 open complaints that are waiting for me here. And I can do that with the tiles by simply tapping on them. When I tap on it, I end up in the complaints module and see my 32 complaints that are waiting for me here, which I do. I see everything is red, glowing red. That means we can get started right here. I could open the complaint directly and get more information about it here.
Although that's not our topic today, right? Retrieving complaints and so on, there are other focus events for that. We've gone back to the main dashboard because now we want to show you the views one level higher. So far, we've been very much operating at the module level. We've also been very focused on the number of data records. There are now so-called KPIs that you can manage within the Babtec software, which consolidate a lot of information and present it clearly in one or more key figures.
We can now see the key figures in the upper area. There are now 5 key figures at the top. These are absolute values, relative values, or also group KPIs that aggregate the key figures. We can now see the complaint key figure in the upper right area. It's already lighting up red at me. It's made up of several criteria. We can see them below green, yellow, and red. To find out a bit more about what's behind the key figure or how it might be weighted, I simply open it with drill through, go into the key figure, and can already see all the criteria that flow into this key figure.
Now I can also select one of these criteria, just tap on it, and a detailed view of this criterion will be displayed to me. And a detailed view means that with another click, I can even display the details from the past. So I have a kind of timeline. This KPI is automatically recalculated again and again and stored in the database. This allows me to build a history and view the progression. However, all this information is only half as valuable as the actions, the measures I take based on such a KPI.
And that's exactly what has already happened here. A measure has been taken here to counteract this KPI, that is to address the risk here as well. And here we actually have not just one, but several measures that are directly visible on the key figure. Measures can be executed immediately, right on the key figure. That means in the upper section, I have the option to initiate new measures directly from the top. I can address someone, access the catalog of measures, and take action immediately here. These measures end up in the central module for action management, where every responsible person can access them. That's not the topic for today, but Just for your information, you can access the action management directly from here.
Now, in addition to these internal key figures, there are also metrics that involve external parties. In other words, your suppliers whom you want to evaluate. So within the Babtec software, we offer you a tool here, and this tool allows me to carry out supplier evaluations.
There actually isn't just one supplier evaluation, because both suppliers and customers, as well as the criteria I use to assess the suppliers, are extremely diverse. For example, I have suppliers who deliver raw materials, I have catalog goods, I have all kinds of different suppliers in various time frames that I might want to evaluate. That's why the way I evaluate suppliers is, of course, highly individual.
And we take this individuality into account by allowing the calculation of the supplier score to be completely customizable within the Babtec software. And now we'll show you this within the Babtec software. I'll take you once again into our introductory module, the Supplier Cockpit definition. And first, I see an overview of the definitions that already exist. And here within the definition, I now select one, and there's already a very important point that I can set here. Namely, I can freely choose which time period I want to consider within this definition. So, which data period should be used to perform the calculation that we are about to look at? And because this is so flexible, you can simply say, okay, I need an annual calculation. But maybe I also want to perform calculations on a quarterly basis, monthly basis over 2 years, and even in parallel. So you can say, I do a calculation every month, and at the end of the year, an annual calculation, no problem at all with these flexible time periods.
Our definition in our example is now based on 3 categories. Whether you have 3 categories like we do, or 2 or 7, it doesn't matter. You can, of course, configure that yourself. We've simply chosen quality, purchasing, and logistics. Within these categories, you'll find the specific criteria that you use for the actual evaluation.
These criteria that we have here are evaluated using so-called scales. We've brought along an example scale here, and you can see that this one is about on-time delivery. The number of days the supplier delivers early or late is converted into points, which are then included in the supplier evaluation. Of course, this only works if the information about days delivered early or late is transferred from a higher level system into Babtec. Yes, for example, using 2-date fields. When was the delivery supposed to happen? When was it actually delivered? Or perhaps even directly the number of days which are transferred from an ERP system into Babtec via the goods receipt inspection. Here's an example.
In addition to logistics topics, of course, there are other facts that can be calculated, such as quality-related issues. Here's a classic example. I may have agreed on a complaint rate with my supplier and can set the complaint rate on a scale here and evaluate it accordingly. The data, of course, comes directly from the complaints management module in Babtec.
If you have information that is not stored in the Babtec software, then it's also possible to discuss integrating this information. Perhaps you currently have an existing ERP system that we could potentially access and thoroughly read in order to effectively incorporate all relevant supplier-related evaluations and assessments. Or you have an Excel list that you've been maintaining for years, which is centrally stored on the server, has a specific format, and which we should use in read-only mode during the evaluation process. These are things that work. This needs to be done, and it does require some customization, but it can be implemented.
Now, we've talked a lot about all the data that flows in here and is calculated. We've classified all of that as hard facts. So everything that can somehow be calculated, that the system automatically displays and calculates for you. On the other hand, of course, there are also criteria that I can use, but that I can't calculate directly. So classic topics in procurement. What is my supplier's pricing policy like? What is their communication behavior like? So soft facts that I have to assess manually.
To make such a soft fact accessible, I first have to define it as a criterion. Secondly, as you can see here in the lower section, I also create a catalog of options that can later be used by the employees entering the evaluation to assess how good the communication behavior actually is. And depending on the specific selection that has been made, this particular criterion is then also carefully weighted here, again, using a comprehensive point ranking system.
Okay, we have now set up our categories and defined the criteria that are necessary for calculating and determining supplier performance and supplier capability. But so far, we haven't evaluated a single supplier. That means we now have to switch to execution mode in order to actually initiate the evaluation.
I've already done that in the background. So now I'm actually in the Supplier Cockpit, meaning the module that's used for the evaluation, for the actual assessment work. And this module may be used by different employees in your company. Maybe there are soft factors that should be added by the purchasing department and soft factors that should be assigned to the supplier by the quality assurance department. Then you're in the right place here. This is the module where I can now open a specific supplier evaluation. Here I am. This is the evaluation we created earlier. Then I trigger my calculation. Now the hard facts are being calculated, meaning both the internal and external databases are accessed, the calculation is performed, and a supplier key figure is calculated here. Step 1.
After the hard facts have been calculated, I would now take care of the soft facts. Where relevant, I can now adjust the soft facts. To do this, I simply open a supplier and adjust them manually, such as communication behavior or the pricing policy accordingly.
I'll do that now. So here, since the communication behavior has really improved significantly, I select a new range. As you can see, the traffic light factor updates immediately, and the underlying supplier metric is also calculated automatically.
By the way, we've also ensured consistency here, so I can directly look at a hard fact criterion and via drill through also see the basis for the calculation. In other words, the orders that lead to a certain metric appearing the way it does now.
That was the view of a single supplier evaluation. Of course, you can also use the data within the software to observe trends across various supplier evaluations. For that, we now need the third section in the Supplier Cockpit. This section is really about the actual analyses that we provide as standard. After opening the analysis, I can now see the timeline across all supplier evaluations. You can already see here there's an annual trend, and this annual trend is visualized accordingly.
Although this is a really specific analysis, maybe for an individual or a group of people who might want to see this more often, if I were in purchasing, I would wish to have something like this directly on my dashboard.
Okay, I have a really good idea for you right now. We're just going to build a dashboard together now, together with you as well, a brand new dashboard that we'll set up here. For that particular purpose, we will now go back to my personal computer and I will then proceed to open the Dashboard Designer application. Following that, I will meticulously create a brand new dashboard template right here with you. And subsequently, I will carefully select a precise grid layout of 10 by 10. I will then diligently save that newly created template. And now, at this very moment, I will utilize this completely empty canvas to thoughtfully add a new pivot analysis at this specific point in time. Let's make this visual representation a bit larger and in fact even a little bit more expansive to ensure optimal clarity and improved visibility. We will then proceed to carefully save that particular configuration. Following this right here, I will meticulously add a comprehensive analysis specifically designed for the average supplier development process. What are your thoughts on this approach? Does that sound like a satisfactory plan?
Oh, that already looks better. But now let's raise the level of difficulty a bit. How about showing the development of a single supplier? Maybe we can do that as well. The supplier I might be particularly focused on, I want to see them directly on the dashboard.
I'll do that. I'll just take another comprehensive pivot analysis, place it down here, make it a bit bigger again, then go into the settings, and for example, carefully select the detailed development of a specific particular supplier. There I am.
Great. I really like that already. I'd like to try it out right away, if that's okay. It would be best if it worked on my iPad, of course.
And now we'll take you along with us again. That means we're going to use the BabtecQ route again now. So BabtecQ means browser, not internet, still your company, but browser-based, no software installation, device independent, this time on the iPad.
In the list of dashboards, the new dashboard that Lars created now appears. Ah, what did you call it?
Supplier performance.
Ah, here it is down below. Very good. And yes, it looks exactly like the one you built for me. I already think that's very good. I can access it directly as well. This might be a dashboard for an individual or specific department that is only focused on this topic. Dashboards are dynamic. That means if these analyses change, they will of course also change directly in the dashboard. Now this is the internal perspective. This is the company's view of the supplier. But there is also another side. We also have to provide the supplier with the information about how they are being evaluated.
Exactly, and we now want to make the supplier evaluation available to the supplier on the internet. When we talk about the internet, we use our cloud-based platform BabtecQube. This is the platform where your supplier can get a free company account. After a digital handshake, you can provide information from your Babtec software to the supplier in the queue. That has already happened now. So the click, it's just a single mouse click, has taken place. And now Daniel is taking on the supplier role and will show us how this is displayed to the supplier.
I can easily access the BabtecQube functionality through a website. That's why we're using the tablet again. Here once more with my Safari browser. I've already opened it. This is the BabtecQ page. The supplier has their own dashboard. With the Cube, I can do more than just exchange supplier information. For that, feel free to check out another YouTube video. I've gone into more detail on that topic there. That one covers inspection orders and complaints, but that's not our focus here. Here, we're now looking at the results of the supplier evaluation. I can access that directly on the left here by clicking on my supplier evaluation down at the bottom. And here I access the information that Lars has prepared for me in the Babtec system with the same categories and the same criteria. That means right now I'm here as an A supplier. I see my quality, purchasing and logistics criteria. And if I want, I can dive deeper into the details to take a closer look at quality or the purchasing area. If I have multiple evaluations, meaning if my customer has already sent me supplier evaluations several times, the system automatically creates a history. And here, for example, I can look at a trend. How has my pricing developed or improved over the past few years in this case?
That was our journey through the various modules, from dashboards to KPIs in the browser, to supplier evaluation in Babtec, defining the criteria, actually carrying out the evaluation, and finally communicating the results to the supplier.
If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos, and visit us on our website.
Thank you very much and goodbye.
Goodbye.